truth, relief.
I just answered this question for a video, but I'm gonna choose 3 different words. I would say breaking the cycle.
I would say beautiful, joyous, and triumph.
Looking back, was there a moment you doubted yourself, and how did you persevere in your queerness? You can take a moment to breathe, think about it.
He's
That
like
moment is
gone
up.
with the wind question.
I can answer. Go for it. I grew up in an extremely religious and conservative household. I was homeschooled until 8th grade, so I was very sheltered. And so there were so many moments, countless moments really, that I doubted myself, my queerness, my identity. I spent so much of my childhood running from who I knew I was deep down. And what I can say as a testimony is that I can't say I wasted, but I spent so many years of my life hating who I was, praying to God, to the universe to fix me, to change me. And I tried everything. I fasted, I prayed, and there was just a moment when I was around 14 or 15, when I just came to the acceptance that, babe, it's not changing. You are who you are, who you are. And I think learning that and knowing that I tried everything possible that I could think of to try to change who I was, and knowing that my truth, my authenticity would always persevere, really became my superpower, and then really helped me to overcome that self-doubt. And I think that this show tackles those themes so beautifully, especially in a time now where our country is so divided, and there's such a misunderstanding and such a misconception of what it means to be queer. I think it's just so beautiful and so well put in the writing of the show.
Hello. Unpopular opinion. I doubted humanity. I never doubted myself. I grew up Southern Baptist in the church as well, religious. I sang in the choir. I was a lead singer in the choir since I was like 9, 10. And I always felt there was like a place for me, but I just didn't get it from the people around me. And I felt like that sense of self-doubt was always inflicted upon me. It wasn't inherent for me. It didn't come from me. And I think that happens to a lot of us, is we're always told that we're not good enough when we know we're good enough. And we need something to nurture that. We need something to fuel that positive reinforcement, to tell us it's okay to look in the mirror and love who you are, to be your true self, your authentic self. So I just doubted humanity for a really long time. And what's beautiful about this show is that you see the reflection of yourself in someone else who doesn't even admit it, but they carry you. And that's what Beau did to Ace. Carried him, and that was so beautiful. The stories that Beau could have shared with him, he didn't even share. And that is not even what it's always about. It's about someone caring for you, showing up for you, and saying it's okay. And you can be here, and you can be in your fullness. So don't doubt yourself, doubt humanity, honey, and see, hopefully somebody will come and get it together.
So it's an interesting question for me, because I feel like my queerness is always in question. Because I don't talk about my sexuality because I think it is the least interesting thing about me. I think it's terribly boring for me
We love it.
to sit and talk about that.
It's more.
But B, I, for the last 8 years, have been in a relationship with the most wonderful woman, and I present how I present. I had, watching this show, I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of that is very much my experience. My goodness, if I had a dollar for every school bully who later tried to kiss me in the club, it's terribly common. You mentioned it when you introduced me to the Tony Awards. I was very fortunate I got to do a speech, and in that speech I thanked Jasmine, who's my partner of 8 years, and I sort of come to discover, it's brought to my attention online, that there's so much discourse about, oh, he's with a woman, oh, and he uses he, him pronouns, because I'm quite comfortable with my he, him pronouns, and dressing how I dress and doing what I want. And within my speech I talked about the fact that I play a woman in the show I'm in, and how that's so easily accepted, and by accepting that, intentionally or otherwise, you're letting go of the binary. And so then to do that and have that sort of uplifting moment, but then discover, oh, okay, my queerness is now up for grabs because I've thanked a woman who's my companion. And I think that is a terribly binary way of thinking. To see how I present and the fact I usually wear makeup and women's clothes, and to see that and go, oh well, he should be they them, and he should be with a man, is a terribly binary way of thinking. It was everything I tried to warn against. So yeah, it's funny to talk about, moments you doubted your queerness. Sometimes I still do because of sort of because I'm not queer enough to fit in on this end of the spectrum, and I'm not queer enough to fit in on the other end of the spectrum. But I'm happy, I'm comfortable, and I
There's never enough.
No, yeah. So that's me.
And thank goodness for that. The only time that I ever sort of questioned or had a sort of an issue of me not being whatever enough was actually from my own community, because I'm older than everyone on the panel, and I was never in anyone's closet, or never in. I mean, for clothing, yes, but but I was told early on to stay in the closet by my fellow tribes people, because I would never work and all this sort of thing. And that's the only time, I have to admit, that I started to question who I was. Because I never tried to be interesting or tried to be unique. I just saw it and did it the way that I would do it. And then somebody labeled it. And then okay, well, I'm unique, I suppose. But this is how I actually feel about this. And the only time I ever questioned who I was when my fellow compatriots, told me to not be so much of who you are. Don't be too authentic, because you won't work and you'll stand out, and you might make someone notice us as well. So that was the only time that I had a real struggle. And I had to make a decision, because if I made the decision to just be myself, it meant possibly being alone in this. But it also meant being really good at whatever it was I was doing. And so I chose the truth very early on, and I did feel alone sometimes, but the universe made up for that by giving me back myself and my sanity. And I didn't have to double act,
Because that's a lot.
Oh, it's a lot, and it's exhausting. I could get right to the juice of whatever was happening, because I didn't have to go through another barrier to act as if, oh, well, how would someone who's more straight do this? Whatever that means. So that was the only time And it was a big deal because I thought we were supposed to be, together.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be queer in 2025? What is that? I wrote this question.
Have at it.
I'll start. I think being queer in 2025 is not what it looked like 25 years ago. I think even in the community at large, the way we've learned to sort of see each other and connect and communicate with each other has evolved. And it came from a binary place, like you were just speaking about. And the pressure has gone from this roboticism to fitting in, to being something that people would expect to be what I just saw on TikTok. Normal gays is a whole thing. And being queer is a conversation that anyone can have. The queerness is so vast. Queerness is not just relegated to someone who identifies as bi or pan or trans. Like, it is a descriptive word, it's an adjective, I always say. When I'm speaking about transness as a Black trans woman, it is something that describes my experience as a woman, like it would a fat woman, or a tall woman, or a short woman, or a white woman. I'm a Black woman. I'm a trans woman. So the queerness for me at this point is welcome, because it's a little sprinkle in everyone. It's somewhere in there, and whatever that means to you, you can go ahead and figure that out for yourself. And just to quickly go on a little tangent, I had a conversation with a guy, because I'm always talking about my dating experiences. And a guy was asking me, I asked him how he identified, because I give them the space to choose how, that's your narrative, honey. I know my attractions and who I'm talking to, but how do you self-identify? And he was like, I'm a straight guy, straight guy, straight guy, date straight guys, hello. But I was like, okay, cool. And then I was like, well, I've got pride events that I need to get ready for. And he was like, okay, well, does that include me? Yes. Yes, it does. You can show up. You can go to pride too. You can support the community and be a part of it and don't have to necessarily identify as all of it. But there is some inherent queerness in the fact that you are interested in so much of what the community has to offer, and people should really recognize that.
Everything you've just said is the reason, when I started my last question by saying I don't really talk about my sexuality because I don't think it's interesting. The queerness is the only label that I do adopt and that I will speak because that's I feel so much more comfortable in the ambiguity of queerness. I think anything else is too stifling for me. So to be queer in 2025 there's a joy to adopting that and to finally saying, yeah, no, that's where I want to put myself, and giving myself the option to choose. I know that from the position I'm in, that comes with a hell of a lot of privilege that I know a lot of people don't have. And that's why I do try and use any given opportunity that I can get to speak on behalf of those people who don't have that privilege and those people who are very under fire right now. When I relaxed into my queerness, I felt so overjoyed and afresh and anew, but then very quickly went, well, whoa, if I'm here and I'm doing this, then I need to pay attention to what's going on around me, and what's going on around me is a hell of a lot of terrible attack. People are being attacked in the media, people that physically are being attacked, and I think it's our job and our duty as a community to rally around and protect those people.
No.
gorgeous. I think to that point, you know, queerness in 2025 specifically is such a heavy topic, right? I think there's just so much fear, and as you know, a member of the queer community, as people who are allies perhaps of the queer community, it's just a controversial topic. You know, it seems dark and heavy, and there's like legislation and, you know, real life-threatening attacks coming at us. But I was reminded this month through actually this show and another show that I had the privilege of seeing called My Son's a Queer. And oh, so beautiful. And I had moments in both shows in the audience watching and feeling reminded of the simplicity that queerness, when it's all boiled down to it, is just joy. Like, queerness is what happens when you give someone permission to be themselves, especially at a young age. And I think because of, you know, the state of politics and the state of our country right now, it has become this dark, heavy rain cloud. And while it is a privilege to be queer and, you know, to fight the fight that our ancestors fought, and it is a serious thing, but at the end of the day, we just want to be ourselves, you know? And I think being reminded of that in such heavy times has really lifted my spirits, especially this Pride Month when I felt scared, quite frankly, but I'm reminded of the joy and the simplicity of it.
Yeah. You know, I'll piggyback on all of these things because it has made me, if possible, queerer. And I don't know how that's possible. It's what it means to me in 2025 is to lean into yourself, to become more of yourself, to fight the fight that is never going to end. You know, people always want to attack the truth, you know, because you have to face yourself. So that will never end, but what can change is how you respond to it. You know, so the triggers will always be the same, but your response to the triggers should and can change. You know, the length that you spend on that. My mother always says, deal, don't dwell. You know, so deal with it, don't dwell on it, and then move through it. And so I'm here to tell you, in no uncertain terms, I fight with absolute joy. You know, I use my weapon of wit and glamour and tenacity to move through and to do what we're here to do. You know, if it's telling stories, then tell your stories. If it's, you know, welding, do that. But do it with joy, with absolute joy, and move through. You know, it is ironic that we are under attack, but every queer person that I see lately is just so laser focused on not going back into whatever, you know, pushing through their fear and putting on that armor and going out and doing what needs to be done. Yeah. So that's what I think of being queer in 2025. Let's get it done. Let's keep it moving.
And welding.
Final question. If you could impart one piece of hope to a young queer person who struggles to love himself, what would you say? In like a sentence or two.
There are so many others that have come before you and have given you permission. Go forth.
Well, let's keep it up. Let's keep it cute.
Let's keep it.
Well, dude.
And let's keep it moving.
together.
I would say queerness is the thing that makes you different from everybody else, but queerness is your superpower.
I would say, oh my goodness, it's hard to pinpoint one thing. Take your time, or don't. Make art, or enjoy art, and trust your taste for what makes you happy. Let that be your compass, and go forth and weld.
Give it up for this incredible panel. Jeff Bourne, Justice David Sullivan, Nathan Graham, Vila Jam. The bar out there is open for y'all to hang out. We have some cameras. If you can do a testimonial, just tell people maybe in 3 words what you think of Beau. It will go a long way. So thank you for being here.
Really quickly, I'm not taking too much time. Can we please thank this really beautiful, amazing, humble, talented human being? I'm so blown away by your work. It is beautiful. Thank you. I can't wait.